we're gonna do. The Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee will come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilor Mack?
Yes.
Councilor General
Present.
President Kaczynski?
Present. Seems we have a quorum present. Is there anyone here recording today's meeting? Okay. We'll begin with item 11299, an order requesting a transfer from sewer surplus / retained earnings in the sum of $40,825 to the DPW Department new equipment expenditures. We have DPW Director Dane Arnold here and the Mayor here as well. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is the annual sand purchase, I guess, if you will, from the enterprise account to the city. Basically, the sewer department, because we can't commingle those funds, reimburses the general fund for the amount of sand that's used over for the covering of the sludge landfill that's required by DEP. We do this every year.
Thank you. Director Arnold, anything to add?
Yeah, we take it right from the city's gravel bank down in Templeton. We called over, we got an estimate of about $9.50 per yard, so we typically just charge half because it's the city and we truck in it ourselves, so we charge $4.75. That's so $4.75 times the 85.95. It's the amount of tons that we've hauled over for cover. That's where we came up with the 40,000.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
No, as you both stated, this is something we do every year.
Yes.
Any questions? I'll make a motion. We recommend the passage to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor General, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 11300, an order appropriating $253,908.96 from free cash to the building demo expenses account. This has to do with the demolition of 73 Stewart Street and issues with that building that were determined by Maya, which is our insurance agency. And also there's other properties that are addressed in there that regarding different damage as well. The mayor had sent us some very detailed information about that. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Yeah, the item with the properties, that's just a copy of the previous communication that I gave you regarding the February 29th storm that we had. This property was listed on there. Basically what happened was a portion of the building collapsed onto the neighbor's fence. When that neighbor filed the insurance claim, Maya assigned the property to their loss prevention department, if you will. And then after that, after reviewing the building, it basically said that unless the building was demoed, we'd have coverage concerns moving forward. Then the building commissioner also condemned the building and has ordered the demo as well. We have received a waiver, and Director Cormier's here from purchasing, and Commissioner Zupa's here as well, who's talked to the demolition companies. We've received a waiver from DCAM for certain procurement requirements in order because this is now considered an emergency demolition. So this is paying a substantial portion of the building demolition so that we can clear that out. We do have a building demo account in the regular operating fund that has a balance of $19,000 in it. That is going towards this, so this is the above that $19,000 that's there. And then the property has already been declared surplus by the city council, so once the demolition is completed, we can go out and basically put the property right back on the market. But it's one of those things that where we've been ordered to demo the building, both by the insurance company and after the building commissioner's inspection. It's one of those things that's in an emergency situation that we have to get through and do.
Is there anything to add from Commissioner Zupa or Director Cormier?
President Councils. So earlier this year, I visited the property. Property was partially collapsed. During that last windstorm, we had a roof collapse that subsequently collapsed one of the walls onto the neighbor's property. That's what sparked the second review by myself of the property. When I revisited it, it was determined that it's in a even further state of disrepair, poses an immediate danger to life or limb. It's especially unsafe in case of fire. And we do have a playground in the neighborhood as well. There are walls that are in immediate danger of collapse onto a neighbor's property, a second neighbor's property as well. So the city, in my opinion, can't take any additional chances with leaving the structure intact.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
I just have a question on, you put the sale price just for the property piece, just for the city to get back any owed taxes, correct?
Yes, so that's when we originally voted for that.
Okay.
The council set it back at the original taxes that we owed on the property. Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
I have a couple, thank you. The time bonds estimate was about $370,000.
Yep.
And this order, along with the $19,000 there, would still be almost $100,000 short.
Yeah,
Where are we making up that? Is that with the?
There's additional funding we have in a separate account that we can cover the difference with.
Okay. And the other question I have is, with the time frame from now until it's torn down, is the insurance still covering us? Well, because we're
So long as we're
trying
making the effort to. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
What is the timeframe if this passes?
So I've met 2 demolition contractors out there yesterday morning. I anticipate having quotes back from them this week. One of them has informed me, so because there is the potential to have some asbestos in the building, the test reports have not come back yet. So the entire building needs to be treated as if it was hot, as if it had asbestos. Applying for the proper permits to haul the debris away, most likely has to go to Ohio. That's about a month-long process, so this could be done in potentially 2 phases. We would collapse the building on itself, we would consolidate all the material. The demolition contractor would then fence it off as well. Currently, we can't fence it off because we'd have to take land from 2 abutters in order to do so. So phase 1 would be collapse the building, consolidate it all, fence it off, make it secure while they're working on the application process to move forward. So it's a couple of months, but if we got an approved contract, they could start tomorrow if we get the contract back. So could start immediately, at least phase 1.
Thank you. Dr. Crummy?
Yeah, I'll just add from the purchasing side, typically this is a Mass General Law, Chapter 149 for construction services. It's usually about a month-long bid process, probably 6 weeks when you can get a contract. I was approached on Friday morning and asked to write the DCAM waiver letter. I submitted that at 4:45 on Friday night, and by 5:06 they had approved. So DCAM at the state level saw this as an emergency need really quickly. Typically it takes a couple hours, maybe 24 at the most, but to have it in 15 minutes showed the concern that the state had for this. And then as far as procurement is concerned, so that waives the bidding and the advertisement. But we do need to solicit 3 quotes, and we do need to have a contract, bonds, and all that stuff that we would normally do for a contract. So.
Thank you.
DCAM's the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, just for the acronym record.
Further questions, comments from the committee? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we send this to the full council for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Dermowitz to recommend pass to full council. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 11301, in order appropriating $90,000 from free cash to the Veteran Services Benefit Expenses account. Good morning. We have Corey here from the Veteran Services Office as well. Mr. Mayor, would you like
Thank
to
you very
take
much, Madam President. So this is just something we're doing to close out the end of the fiscal year. We budget what we think we're gonna get in clients at the Veterans Department at the beginning of every fiscal year, but things can change depending on if a veteran's income levels change, if there's new programming coming out, if someone doesn't get a VA claim approved and things like that. So working with Director Hasselman in the Veterans Office, former Director Gabrilla, getting to see what we need for the rest of the fiscal year just to get us so we can close out in the black and just get this to where it needs to be for the fiscal year and then plan ahead for the next fiscal year.
Thank you. Director Hasselman, do you have anything to add?
I met with John Richards yesterday from auditing, and we went through the budget for what we have right now in the account and what we will be expending for the next month before the fiscal year closes. And I do believe the 90,000 will put us in a good place to close out the budget.
Thank you. Further questions, comments from the committee?
And how many claims have you processed? Do you know? I know since January it was.
How many claims for Chapter 115?
Chapter 150.
Chapter 115, right now we have about 80 clients, and about 50 of those are from the city of Gardner.
And for everyone at home, to be clear, these expenses are for Gardner residents,
Gardner
not the one we
veterans.
administer for other communities.
Right.
Yeah, this one's just from the Gardner budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, comments from the committee?
Make a motion, we recommend passage of the order to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Donald, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? The only thing I would say is this is something that we typically do, again, this time of year. This is something we have to review. This is when this comes up. This is the time that we do it, just for the public watching this evening. And this doesn't seem like there's anything outside of the ordinary, but, you know, we do a lot for veteran services in the city, and this is part of the process, so thank you. Further questions, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 11302, an order appropriating $4,000 from free cash to the Community Development Hazard Mitigation Plan Grant City Match account. Director Beauregard, is here to join us. Good morning. This is, as we typically do a lot of times with your department, is the matching piece of the city's grant from the grant that was $36,000 to the city's hazard mitigation plan. Is there anything further that you would like to add?
No, the original grant was $36,000. There's some other grants that we're going to be matching out of the ARPA fund. But this, since it was a smaller amount, we figured we'd match this one with our remaining free cash, since that has to be used by the end of the fiscal year. Should be good.
And just for clarification too, this comes over from FEMA. I mean, this is all of this kind of end of the COVID assistance, and it has to be used by the end of this year.
Yeah, a hazard mitigation plan is a more natural disaster plan, as terms of how do we make sure that our resiliency efforts are in the way that they're supposed to be doing, guiding where we should be moving in terms of making sure that our infrastructure is where it needs to be, and that type of hazard mitigation. So that's where this is coming from. It is a MEMA grant, and it's basically just how do we prevent what happened in Leominster happening here, I guess is the Cliff Notes way to break it down to.
Yeah, identifying deficiencies in our infrastructure, and then if there is a natural disaster, we're able to apply for FEMA and MEMA funds to rectify any damage that's been done in the city.
Thank you.
So it qualifies us.
And there are certain grant programs that you need a hazard mitigation plan on file in order to qualify for that funding.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
So this funding, sorry, so this funding is there when we need it, when we have to put up the $4,000 and we apply for it and get refunded, or do we get this
No.
money to expend?
You get this money to make the plan.
Okay.
And basically it's hiring the consultant to work with the city to draft the plan on saying these are our most vulnerable places.
Understood.
And then that plan in place gives us a thing on this is what we should be working toward on our capital plan to make sure that we do become more resilient in the event of one of these. So we can mitigate those hazards. But having the plan in place allows you that if something happens, you can get money for those items that are on that plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, and our current plan is a regional plan that was done by Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission a while ago. It's now expired. It's been expired for a few years, so we don't currently, we're not allowed to get MEMA and FEMA funds without the plan. So.
Okay. So this is a requirement to get us to be able to apply for that. This is our piece of doing what the city needs to do so that we're in a place where we can apply for further funds should we need them, but hopefully we don't because we follow our capital plan and we're ready to go.
Correct.
So it's our part of the investment.
Yep.
Okay. Further questions, comments?
My question is, if and when it would happen, whose responsibility is it to file for the funds and to make the request and follow the necessary steps that are required?
For the plan or?
For the funds or for any type of FEMA assistance, whose office does that fall under?
So if we have to reach out to MEMA or FEMA, that falls under emergency management with Paul Topolsky.
Okay.
This is just the drafting of the plan, so that would fall under community development, working with emergency management. But since it's a planning document.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to move the item for passage to this full council.
Motion made by Councillor Mack, second by Councillor Durlop to recommend passage to the full council. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11303, in order transferring appropriations $25,000 from building salaries and wages to operating expenditures. Commissioner Zupa?
There we go.
So this is this is an item to close out FY24 regarding these expenses. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So this is an item that's funded basically because we didn't have the local inspector. That is funded in the budget, so that money is available that's there. We cannot expend salary appropriated money on expenses. So this is looking to go towards energies and utilities for us here in City Hall, and then purchase some minor equipment to help maintain the building around the area. Since the money's available, working to, one, close out the energy and utilities account, but also then provide us with some of the equipment so that we can upkeep the building and work on our general maintenance on a better manner than we have been before, so we can not deal with a larger problem later on.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yes, just to expand on the mayor's statements. Currently, the energy and utilities line item, we're currently 25% over budget. FY23, we were 18% over budget. FY22, we were 23% over budget. I anticipate by the close of the budget, we'll be in the neighborhood of 28% over. So moving the money over to energy and utilities will help to clear up that line item. The minor equipment is to add additional equipment to maintain City Hall, specifically the grounds. Currently, DPW maintains our grounds here in addition to a number of other parcels throughout the city. The hours that they spend here, in my opinion, puts a significant burden on their resources. This would allow us to now purchase the appropriate equipment to do everything in-house, and allow us to be self-sustaining here at City Hall.
Thank you. And have you had conversation with DPW about that? You guys have communicated about that?
We have, yeah. They tend to spend approximately 2.5 hours here every time that they're here. They are understaffed, so for us, we have the expertise, we have the knowledge to be able to do this in-house. It makes sense to be able to have the equipment here and allow them to better utilize their own resources.
Thank you. Further questions, comments from the committee?
So previously at our meeting, you talked about purchasing equipment so you can do your own lawn maintenance
Correct.
and everything. So this is what this money will be used for.
This is exactly correct. It won't go for my wish list item, but
You wanted one to do winter, correct?
Yeah, we want to do winter, but this will do. I've been working with some of the local equipment dealers to find the best product, so and the best deal. So this would cover that. So it'll cover lawn equipment, give us some additional flexibility to handle some of the minor snow removal as well.
Thank you. Further questions, comments?
Make a motion, we recommend passage to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Durlop, seconded by Councillor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 11304, in order appropriating $55,000 from free cash to the new parking meter expenses account. This item is pretty self-explanatory from what it is. It's more of an update and an action on things that we previously talked about regarding the parking meters. And it was communicated to the council. We've had it before us before. The mayor's cover letter goes over the appointments that he made to the ad hoc committee that he had discussed and what they decided to do moving forward with the parking meters. And this is basically the funding for that action. Mr. Mayor.
That is absolutely correct, Madam President. So this is for new coin-fed meters with a phone app. As I mentioned before when I provided the update, one of the things that came up when the committee met was some people thought about putting a QR code on the meters themselves. The issue with that is that other communities have run into scamming issues where people put a sticker over the QR code and you're paying the scanner and not the scammer and not the actual parking meter. So that's why we would go with a meter number and a phone app like a Park Mobile or something where you just type in the spot number and you can pay electronically that way. But there will still be coin fit options for those who don't want to use a credit card, because there are a large population who utilize that area that don't want to put, you know, a credit card and pay for something like that there as well. This is, I think, one of the better options that we have before us. It's something that the downtown businesses largely support. I want to say it was a 10-to-1 when we surveyed the downtown businesses that they want the meters back. The locations of these meters are actually set by ordinance and council vote. When we removed the meters from Parker Street and City Hall Avenue a couple years ago, those actually had sunset timelines on them that were basically 3 months after we removed them. And we just haven't put them back because we didn't have meters to put on the poles once they went back. So this would allow us to just replace all of our parking meters with that new technology so that we don't have to worry about the no longer functioning meters that are on outside right now.
How did you survey the downtown businesses? How did they were the
So we had a downtown business member on the ad hoc committee. It was Ann LeBlanc from John Sports Shop. She went around and asked some people. We reached out, my office reached out and talked to the businesses that way too. We went up and down Main Street and up and down Pleasant Street because those are the ones that had Pleasant Street had the meters removed and Main Street's seen the effects of that, but also Main Street was the one where we had solar issues because the buildings are so tall and the previous meters had solar powered batteries that those would die quicker. So we did a little talking that way. A couple of the other committee members reached out on their own too, but it's one of those that we had a strong response for.
Thank you. And this is more of a common request, I guess. Like, one thing I've run into in constituents is like people don't know when they have to pay for meters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I understand if there's new ones installed, but if it could just be very clear, like on there, you know, different parking in different cities does it differently, but it's just people don't know when they have to pay for them, when they don't, or they say that they don't. And I think if that could be communicated, that would also help kind of with that downtown space, just because I got feedback on it personally. I have no other comments or questions.
I have a few. So this is gonna replace all meters, we're not
Yes.
gonna be part, okay. And it's great, we're gonna have meters, but they'll be monitored. I mean, I know there's been an issue with the police being able to have a beat person,
Yeah.
so it's one thing. I mean, a lot of places do have a label or something on them saying the hours you have to pay for
Yeah.
parking, okay, which will correct that. With this purchase, is there a warranty or something for so long for the meters? I mean, sometimes not everything you buy brand new works.
Yeah. I'm looking over at Director Cornbury just today. He's been helping, been the main contact for this project. Do we
I
know?
don't see anything on the estimate, but that'll be a question I ask, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And no, I'm in favor of it. I just think that it's important because right now there are a lot of business people parking on the street. They've been taking advantage of the fact that there are no parking meters, and that has been a major issue. So I'm glad to see this being put in place. Thank you.
Councilor Jones.
Yeah, I think the business owners that I've spoken to, turnover is obviously a big deal. People taking up parking spots all day long isn't great, especially with more businesses coming downtown. It's going to be even tighter for parking. My question though, around the app, with these meters, we get to pick an app after the fact.
Yes.
And do they take a portion of the fee that's paid at the meter, or do we pay a flat rate to them, or how does that normally work?
So they get a zero. Josh, do you have that one? It's a fee that's taken out of the actual payment itself. We don't pay them directly. It's basically the customer pays them and we get the difference.
Obviously, whatever quarters go in are just ours, and then whatever's done through the app is
Correct.
they get a cut.
I just don't know the percentage off the top
It
of my
probably
head.
varies per
Yeah.
app, I assume, but it's.
So we've checked with one mobile app, we can check with others, but this one says that it's a 3%, 3% plus 20 cents on the transaction, so.
Gotcha.
So we'll check with others too, but this was the one that was recommended. They use the same pattern in Burlington, Vermont, and a couple other places throughout New England that seem to work, but we'll check the other ones too as well.
And can you use a credit card on these, or is it just app or quarters?
App quarters. So you wouldn't stick a credit card into the meter, but you could use your credit card through your app.
Okay.
So
That saved significant money on this. When we bought the meters last time, we were looking closer to $200,000 because of the credit card technology and the battery and stuff like that. That's how we got down to the 55, was just the coin operated with the app. Because really the app service is a self-paid for, lack of a better term, because it's getting paid for directly by the parker.
Thank you. Further questions, comments from the committee? I would say I would want that information from Director Cormier that Councillor Mack asked about, because I support it as well, but I would just, want to know if there's some kind of warranty. I mean, just because like we're in this position for a reason, right? Like we just did this vote a few years ago, here we are with these meters. Your office is going to get the brunt of whatever happens anyway. So I would just hope that we would have that information. I mean, I want to recommend passage to the council and get this moving, obviously, but we just need to be really sure this time we're putting our best foot forward and asking the questions. Maybe last time that got a little bit screwed up. So I would want that information. That's kind of my only other comment. And also, Mr. Mayor, you need to sign your cover letter before this comes to council. Further questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we recommend passage of the full council pursuant to getting information on the warranty.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Jarlatt, seconded by Councillor Mack to recommend passage to the full council, pending any information that we can gather from the warranty being provided. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11305, a measure to accept short-term rental impact fee, Mass General Law 64G, Section 3DA. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam President. So this item here and the next item are related to each other, but they have to be sequential to each other. When we submitted the forms to the Department of Revenue after Councilor Tassoni submitted the meals tax and the hotels tax increase a couple of weeks ago, and that was approved by the City Council, DOR let us know that that lodging tax doesn't apply to short-term rentals in the city, so that's Airbnbs, things like that we have. We don't have that much now, but it said they all, one of the things that was said to me by the commissioner was, with how much housing is being pushed in the state, it's better to have everything in place now, that if something happens down the line, you just have all your systems in place. So while this probably would only bring in about $2,800 a year, it's something like that. It also makes it clear that short-term rentals don't have that 6% tax that lodging hotels have. It's only a 3% fee that's on those there, because it's by transaction that's there. So this is just a clarification measure, and a clarification that it's not the regular hotels tax. In some ways, it's creating the system in place that if we do get any more short-term rentals in the city, that those are then accounted for, and it makes it a more equal system with hotels versus short-term rentals. The two votes that have to be separate is, under the statute, you have to require this for owner non-occupied buildings first, and then if you do that, then only then can you do the owner-occupied buildings. So that's why it's in two separate votes. So this one here is for the short-term rentals, that 2 or more short-term rental units in the same community but not located in the owner's primary residence.
So this item, basically the next item is removed if this item doesn't.
Correct.
Isn't, okay, so we can make recommendations to the council when it gets to the council floor, just for clarification, if one is dependent on the other.
Yes.
Basically. Okay. Questions, comments from the council?
No, I just think I respect the fact that we have to have clarity and consistency in the process for the taxation of all hotel rental facilities. So I appreciate this being brought to us now.
I agree with Councillor. Councillor Dolan, anything?
Nothing.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we refer this to the council for approval, item 11305.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Mack, seconded by Councillor Dolan to recommend passage to the full council. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11306, a measure to accept short-term rental impact fee, Mass General Law 64G, Section 3D, subsection B.
This is for owner-occupied units in a single, 2-family, 3-family, or multifamily dwelling. One of the reasons why this is important, particularly this one, and again, this cannot pass unless the other one passes, is the housing bond bill recently passed the House of Representatives. It's before the Senate, I believe today or tomorrow. Included in that would be a statewide exemption for all municipal zoning for accessory dwelling units. So if this basically says if you have an accessory dwelling unit on your property and you decide to rent that out, which you would have the right to do, it's considered a short-term rental. We'd get a 3% fee on that.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council?
I have none.
I make a motion that we move this order to the full council for passage.
Second?
Motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Jordan-Lowitz to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11311, in order transferring appropriations $33,000 from DPW maintenance crew salaries and wages to vehicle fuel operating expenditures. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. When we last spoke about transferring money from the DPW to other items, I misspoke originally and clarified it on the end, so I just want to clarify that. That was on me for any confusion that was caused after that. But this is what I was thinking of when I talked about it, where the DPW has the largest fleet in the city's vehicle fleet. It's covering the fuel that goes towards those vehicles.
Dr. Arnold?
We currently have about a $5,000 deficit in the vehicle fuel account, and that's just getting us to the end of May, so we still have the month of June still outstanding. We probably typically spend between $25,000 to $28,000. In the winter we spend a little bit more because the diesel trucks are plowing more, but the vehicle fuel item covers police, it covers city hall, and school vehicles as well.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council?
So you have a 5,000 deficit at the end of May. So this is to cover to the end of the fiscal year. So you need $28,000 for the month of June.
Correct. And that's my best guess at vehicle prices and usage and stuff. Just base it on the trend. If there's money left over, it would be encumbered for next year.
Thank you.
We used to have actual fuel tanks at the DPW. There were some issues with that, so those have been decommissioned. Now, through the purchasing office, every city vehicle has their own dedicated card that we get from basically the state contract. You go to the gas station, you put in the odometer reading and the driver ID number, and it basically charges per vehicle that way to this account.
And to be clear, you're not paying what you're seeing on the price as far as at the pump, it's deducting
it's through the state contract.
tax.
Thank you.
Are all the tanks there decommissioned, or is one, do we still have one?
They're both decommissioned. And actually, we're mandated, I believe by the end of 2026, by the state, we have to have them removed
Okay.
underground. So it's a project we have to plan for.
Just for clarity on what we're spending, is it possible to get a breakdown of, through the fiscal year of what we spent on fuel?
Yeah, I can get you that.
That's all I have. Obviously, this expense that's going up. I'm in favor of passage as we need to pay for our fuel. I make a motion to recommend passage to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Jordan-Lowitz, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11312, an order requesting a transfer from sewer surplus / retained earnings in the sum of $140,000 to sewer department chemical treatment expenditures. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. It's basically just taken from the retained earnings account, so the free cash of the sewer enterprise account, if you will, to pay for some chemicals that are needed to treat the wastewater at the wastewater treatment plant. There are some new federal regulations out there in terms of phosphorus, nitrogen, and other stuff like that, but this is the chemicals that treat the sewage that we collect from Gardner, Ashburnham, and Templeton at the treatment plant.
Thank you.
We also kind of got a double whammy because the cost of chemicals are increasing by almost 40 to 50%, but our flows at the wastewater treatment plant are actually starting to increase. We've had high groundwater over the course of the spring, so the more water we're getting at the wastewater treatment plant, we're treating more water. So it's not only the cost of chemicals, we're treating more wastewater, so that's kind of a double hit.
That's why we've talked about before lining some of the sewer pipes to try to see if we can stop some of the infiltration and inflow that happens into those pipes to reduce the flows.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council?
I had reached out to the director, and just the clarity on the letter you sent was helpful. The estimate was 510, roughly, you said, right, for
Yeah,
the year?
there's an error on fiscal year 2024 in my math. I took the 436 and I added this request to it, but not including the $66,000 deficit. So we've spent 510,000, not 576,000, just as a clarity.
And with obviously you came, it was a letter in March. In April, we did an additional $140,000.
Yeah.
Viola made an estimate of 370 at that time.
Correct.
I appreciate that the regulations changed. Is that, did those come quickly? Is that something they didn't
No.
consider?
This is mostly due to chemical cost and the flow. at the
This is
wastewater
chemical
plant.
costs
But,
as well?
yeah.
Okay. And with, I guess, forecasting out, I mean, what does next year's look like for the cost in this line item?
Basically, probably going to be underestimate on my line item budget. I mean, when Viola gave me the estimate to get me to the end of the year, they were anticipating flows to drop. They had
drop.
So I'm going to probably be underestimate in my budget for next year as well.
Because the budget obviously is, I believe, is around 240 or so, and we're at 500 this year, and it's been going up. So obviously that's a concern. That's all I have.
Questions, further questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to recommend passes to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Donello, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage of the item to full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion passes. Item 11313, an order requesting a transfer from water surplus / retained earnings $50,000 to water department chemical treatment expenditures. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is for, again, the increased cost of chemicals for the water treatment side of things as well. Director Arnold can speak a lot more.
Director Arnold.
Again, the chemical costs at the water treatment facility is more or less mirrored with at the wastewater facility. We're in an $8,500 deficit right now. We're anticipating about $40,000 for the rest of the year.
Questions, comments from the council?
I have none. Recommend passage to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Donello, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11314, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Gardner, section 90 of chapter 553 thereof, entitled sewer rates. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is based off of the rate study that's included in your packet this evening. DPW Business Manager Coughlin and City Engineer Rob Oliva are also here as well for this item. Based off of the costs associated with running the sewer enterprise, the flows that we have and everything that you have in the rate study that you have before you, these are the recommended rates to cover the cost that we have with the treatment and operation of the sewer plant.
And this item is something, again, that typically comes before us this time of year. This needs to be buttoned up by June 30th.
It helps, yeah, that way we can get everything, but it is an ordinance, so it does require 2 printings, so we probably won't be done by June 30th this year, and we recognize that, but that's why if you look, it says FY25 for the effective first rate. It's whenever it passes in FY25, so it's the first quarter, it's the first quarter, if it's the second quarter, it's the second quarter. But it just helps us cover our cost.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you?
Good. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
We have a spreadsheet that looks at the entire revenue that we take into the city as far as and they're all based on water meter readings. So if we kind of go through this presentation to you, we haven't raised the sewer rate since 2017, 7 years ago. And what we try to do is we raise sewer rates and then raise water rates, so they're not at the same time, because typically about 90%, 95% of the residents who have sewer, they have water. So that way we're not impacting with a water rate increase and a sewer rate increase. So we took a look at what we have for projects outstanding. We have several projects with the collection system. We have some pump stations we have to upgrade. We have some upgrades at the wastewater treatment facility. And we also have some loans that we're paying off, about $1 million worth of loans that we're paying off from previous projects as well. So we did a study. We looked at other rates within municipalities, which is on page 2. We feel we're, again, down the bottom as far as the rate study that we did with other municipalities. we looked at the sewer revenue that we get over the last 5 or 6 years. We took an average of that revenue, and then we took 95% of it, just so that there's a little conservative, because if it's a real rainy season, people aren't washing their cars, they're not watering their lawns, so they don't use as much water, so our revenue then drops. If it's a typical sunny, nice summer, they're doing that, the revenues increase. So we took a 95% of what our average was over the last 6 years and came up with the rate to what we're proposed to.
Thank you.
If we remain, if you go to the first graph, which is titled current state, the green line, it's not colored on your copy. The one that is going due south, that is the enterprise fund. So if we keep these current rates that we have and the budget increases at 3% and our revenue stays the same, we're going to be at 0 in FY 2029. And then if it goes into where we're at a deficit, then the city is going to have to offset that deficit and pay for the offset in the sewer system. So we're trying to avoid that. If you go to graph 2, if we incorporate the proposed projects that we have with the current sewer rate, it then goes to 0 in 2028. So what we're looking at is doing a 5-year sewer increase at 10%, which is what we've typically done in the past. When we've done these, we look at a 4 or 5-year sewer rate increase, ranging around 10% per year. And
Can I add one thing?
sure.
Just the driving factor of why we choose the increase that we choose. We sit around and come up with all the projects that are going to need to happen, or that we think are going to need to happen over the next 5 to 10 years, and plug them into that spreadsheet Dane was talking about, so we can predict how much annually additional money we'll need to cover those costs. So as we pick and choose those projects, we then try to find a rate that matches that.
Thank you.
If you go to graph 3, it's incorporating the proposed projects with the proposed sewer rates. You'll notice it bumps us out and at least gets us out to FY 34, which sounds like it's a long time away, but it's still going to hit 0 at that point. So our intention would be to do this 5-year increment proposal of an increase, and then look at water rates, and then go back to sewer rates around FY 31, which would be the last graph, to try to get the enterprise account from hitting 0. That's their proposal.
When you take into the rate increase, do you include such things as the requests that come in for increased chemical expenses? So not to come back to the council for more budget increase for chemicals. If we're going to increase the sewer rate, why aren't we looking at covering all other additional expenses within that rate?
In that budget is in this proposal is my budget over the course of the year. My increase, it's hard to predict what cost of chemicals are going to be in 5 years, or the cost of fuel. So I just put like a 5% increase on those line items. In some cases it's not going to be enough, but should be enough coverage in the rate that we won't go to 0. Trying to...
Yeah, you're budgeting a certain number, but in your sewer surplus, in the actual sewer account, you have the money to cover it. It's your budgeted number annually that sometimes can fall short.
Right, so I guess my question is, if we're looking at increasing the sewerage rates, and we know the budgeted amount we're not finding to be enough, and we know chemicals are probably not going to go down anytime soon. So why aren't we taking that into account if we're looking at increasing the rates? Because I don't think the increased amounts are that much, especially compared to other area municipalities. So why wouldn't we look at a few more cents so we're covering everything, like the chemicals, so we're padding it, so we're not looking at additional annual increase from free cash, to cover chemicals. I would rather have there be a surplus from the sewer rates than to come back
Yep.
to the mayor every year and say, we have we always have, we need more money. Chemicals went up again, we need more this.
If I could just step in and clarify too, what the chemical money that's here isn't free cash, it's from the surplus from the sewer account.
Okay.
We can't, there are certain times that we're allowed to put free cash into the enterprise, but most of the time we're not, because there's a court case called the Emerson case where you can't commingle general fund and enterprise funds. So the enterprise has a surplus every year, and that's what's called retained earnings or surplus. So that's why if you look at the order for that, it says a transfer from sewer surplus retained
Yeah.
earnings. So that is the excess revenue at the end of the fiscal year. It basically goes back and that vote takes it from that surplus and puts it into the budget. So that's, the account is there and it's taking the surplus that's there and allowing us to increase the line item that was approved in the budget for the enterprise account to get that up there too. So it is running a surplus right now. It just, we won't be a sustainable surplus or in that black that we're in right now moving forward if these rates don't go up. But this rate increase does include what's in the budget and building that surplus up as we move forward. But what the money was there, the math and the budget spreadsheet was not. And that's what was there. I think that's the,
I'm sorry, I
Yeah, I
misunderstood.
think I answered for
That, okay.
Yeah, I did too.
That's, okay. So do you feel, Mayor, that the rate increase will create enough in the surplus?
Yes.
To cover things appropriately? Then I'll rephrase my question.
Yes.
Because that's what I want to make sure.
Yes, so
That there's
that's-
enough in the surplus to cover the additional expenses that will come up.
Yes, that's why we did that 95% rather than the full average of
Okay.
it too. And there were some years that we had, because you take the average, it fluctuates. So that helps pad that a little bit there too.
Okay.
So that's based off of the best budgeting practices that we have.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's just my thing. I just want the surplus to be
Yeah.
sufficient.
Yep.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Thank you.
Anything further? Do you have anything else to add? Any further question, comments from the committee? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we recommend passage to the ordinance to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Jonah, seconded by Councillor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. This would be two votes, would be a first and a second printing, but we were recommending it go to first printing. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 11256, the resolution to rename the city council chamber, the Ronald F. Cormier Council Chamber. Councilor Mack?
Yes, Councilor Kazinskas, we brought this back for a study and report, so at this point, I would like to make a motion that we work on the study of this, and I think right now maybe an ad hoc committee might be appropriate to look
Okay.
at this.
Do we want to keep this in committee for more time, discuss that more before we
Yes.
report that out to the council?
I agree, yes, I'd like to make that motion.
So the recommendation is to recommend more time to the council on the grounds that, the report would be that we would like to establish an ad hoc committee and we'll work out those in our subsequent finance committee meetings. Is that fair?
Yes.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I'll second the motion.
Okay, so motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Jonalowitz to ask for more time.
And create an ad hoc committee in regards to this item.
Create an ad hoc committee in regard to the item. Is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11286, an order appropriating $30,000 from free cash to the mayor's unclassified Esgraves versus City lawsuit expense account. At our previous meeting, we had discussed getting the itemized the bills basically that are going to make up the full, not just this $30,000, but the full cost that this account has cost the city up to this point. Do you have an update on where those bills?
Yes, we should be getting them soon. I've pushed Attorney Petrini's office a couple times. There's a lot that has to be redacted from those bills because the bills break down the strategy, how many hours and everything from there. But I have emphasized that since this is a free cash appropriation, it has to be voted on before the end of the fiscal year, so he understands that there's a time limit to this and we should be getting them by the time the council packet is published tomorrow.
Thank you. I would, if we get that information and it is included in the packet for Monday, that's what we're asking for. I think there's been a lot of clarification on what this is for in the past. We've had
Yeah.
several requests for more money to be spent on this expense in the past, but to know where we're at this point, and all that's being poured into it from the city, and where it's going would be, is really what we've requested. So I would hope that we'd be able to get that before Monday's meeting from the office. Discussion, questions, comments from the council?
No, I'm glad to hear that this is going to be my question, that they're aware they're up against a deadline of getting this to us, or once one Monday passes, you got to wait to get paid. So hopefully they can handle that. As long as we get the bills and they're what we asked for. As long as we get that, I recommend passage of this appropriation to full council.
Second.
So we want to make a recommendation? Okay, so
Yeah.
motion made by Councilor Donald, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage to the full council upon receiving the documents we've requested, which are the itemized bills, which will have some reductions because of the sensitivity of them. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 11289, ordinance to amend the Code of the City of Gardner, Part 1 thereof entitled Administrative Legislation. Is there discussion on this, or is there a motion?
A lot of information here. I've gone through it. I think this is something we should hold on to for longer. During the ask for more time, keep it here. Recommend to the full council to make sure they're going through it as well. Something to tackle maybe after the fiscal year ends. As you stated before, it's not a pressing issue. This is something that's all these ordinances have been in place for many years in some cases. So like a recommendation for ask for more time.
I'll second that, and I could see this eventually, once we encourage the full council to go through this, I could see it probably going to maybe to an informal eventually after that, but I would encourage the whole council to really go through the 45 pages, so it's, when it gets there, it's not something they're looking at for the first time, because there is a lot of information here.
I agree with the councilors. I think, if the intent is to clean something up and to make it better, especially since it hasn't been reviewed in so long, and that's, I think that's our diligence that, we're doing as a city. You've submitted it to us. Now we do the work, on our end before we vote on it. And I think, I'd entertain certainly a committee of the whole or something, but I think it should stick with us for a little bit more time to be sure we have everything we need so we can make a thorough recommendation to the council. And I don't think that we have that yet. So if there's no objection, we'll ask for more time. We'll ask for more time. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor General to adjourn. Is there there's no discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.